Kim, you watch LA City View, Channel 35, our city, our channel.
Good morning. Today is Tuesday, April 2nd, 2019. This is a regular meeting of the Los Angeles Board of Police Commissioners. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Good morning. Let the record reflect Commissioners Decker, Figueroa Villa, and Goldsmith are present, and we have a quorum.
Thank you, and I know Commissioners Soboroff and Bonner will be joining us shortly, but to try to stay in proceeding on a timely manner, let's begin. With respect to the consent agenda items 1A through F, do any commissioners have any questions? Seeing no questions, Madam Secretary, do we have any cards for public comment on item A?
Yes, ma'am. We have two comment cards. We have Mr. Herman and George Bazzetti.
Mr. Herman? And just so I know, Madam Secretary, do we have any items on B?
We have Mr. Herman on B, Mr. Herman on C, and George Bazzetti on C.
And is that it on items A through F?
We have Mr. Herman and George Bazzetti on D, George Bazzetti on E,
A handy guide
and
to
Mr.
the
Herman on E, and then
Bagley.
the same
Excuse
two.
me, Mr. Herman, one moment, please.
I believe it's the same two on all items.
Same two on all items. Mr. Herman,
yes,
please
ma'am.
proceed.
Respectfully, we'll follow the rules under the Bagley Keene, California Attorney General's Office rules.
Mr. Herman, this is regarding matter A, travel authority for the Chief of Police.
Yes, ma'am. For the record. So the department has decided a couple of days ago on March 27th, by the way, happy April Fool's Day.
Mr. Herman,
Yes,
this is
ma'am.
regarding travel authority.
Correct. I'm getting there. Well, relative to the travel authority, incidentally, for the chief of police, it's a priority. How do you expect the chief of police to travel without the authority of the public? We are the providers of public transportation. We know that the Transportation Authority has the largest account available into the billions of dollars for public transportation, and that should include travel for the chief of police. Because look at Ms. Beatrice, a very fine, wonderful chief of police who needs travel money to travel. But let me go on because, after all, I'm on topic. To attend the Public Unity Tour Challenge ride. Well, I've never had a challenge on a ride, but hell, when you travel in LA, it's a motherfucking travel challenge nowadays. But again, for some of us who've never been in New Jersey, I've never been in New Jersey, I never plan to. It's too fucking cold. I plan to see Washington, D.C. soon. I and Mr. Bazzetti down there because we want to ask questions regarding the DOJ rules and who the Inspector General's rules does he follow. And in closing argument to Washington, D.C., as set forth, approve departures report.
Mr. Herman, your time's up. If
Thank
you
you.
want to handle item 1B while you're there.
Oh, you got another speaker, I'm sorry.
Mr. Paccetti, you can go now, sir.
I don't know what the chief needs to go on a police unity tour challenge ride for when he's got business right here. Didn't we just have another killing? And I'd like to know why this one is so much more special unless Mr. Soboroff has some personal business to do with Jay-Z, because his entire career has revolved around him being on these commissions to do personal business. You hear him say that he doesn't know who the hell I am. And yet, I'm involved in his personal business life for the last 25 plus years. Now, what are these guys doing with unity unless it's to build up their fake credibility that the police is being a dangerous job? Any of you guys ever look up 100 most dangerous jobs in the United States, people? You're 18. This isn't a dangerous job, and it's highly paid. And all you do is make excuses for killings until we held you responsible a few weeks ago. So I don't know why the chief is going on a unity tour when he's got some real biz here with the corruption going on in this department, with the letter I gave you from May 18th to me saying that your police can kill against a DOJ agreement, that the LAPD and LA Unified can
please
commit
stay
any
on
crime
topic.
against me. This is on the topic of why he should be here, okay? Now, you don't want to face it, but you better read the Bagley-Keenan Green Act, stupid guys, including you, Miss DOJ fool, because you don't have a clue to the Constitution or the law. And if you didn't go look up that police commission meeting with Soboroff committing felonies on me, you are now a co-conspirator. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That's the end of the public comment cards. Is there a motion from a member of the commission to approve the report? Second? All in favor? Passes. Item 1B, Madam Secretary, it's Mr. Herman, and is that it?
Mr. Herman and Mr. Bezzetti.
Mr. Herman. Regarding a monetary donation from the Hollywood Bowl.
Well, when accepting monies, any kind of monies, it can result into a hustle and a bustle of things. One, it can be used to pay off to hit someone. Two, it could be money used illegally because it should be reported in 1099, Mr. Inspector General. And more so, such any sum totaling over $100,400 for the Hollywood Bowl is unacceptable. Unacceptable and inappropriate. How dare you, behind the backs of the public, accept this kind of money when you're the second highest paid officials from those jackasses across the street at City Hall under the name of Richard M. T. Fagg. So, again, Los Angeles Philharmonic Association is bribing you. And these tokens are not enough to result in any manner acceptable by we, the public. We are the legislative body here. We control what you will accept, what is appropriate to accept, and what you shall report how this money is spent, micromanaged, itemized in every fucking manner of the law, called 54950, the Ralph M. Brown Act. In our jurisdiction, to utilize this monies for food and recreation, who the fuck you think you're feeding with all this food and money? Who? For such activities to benefit the so-called Pacific Area Cadet Program, kids don't eat that much food. Give these fucking kids a check out of this money.
Mr. Paccetti?
The first thing that comes to mind is, what a punk amount of money. $1,400 is pocket change. So what the hell are they buying for cheap? Nothing's gone on here for as long as I've been around except buying and selling this police department and excuses. This is a public agency. Taking other public money away from the pleasure of the public to give you to people that are supposed to be doing it on their own dime with their own budget. Now, if somebody has a cadet program and they don't know how to play money, their damn problem.
We have no other cards on this item.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the department's report and accept the donation? All in favor? The item passes. Item C, Madam Secretary, are there Mr. Herman and Mr. Paccetti? Is that it?
Correct.
Mr. Herman?
Item 1C, sir.
Please reset the clock.
Thank you, Mommy. Thank you, Mommy. Wow. I like it when Miss Decker's here. See? Miss Decker knows how to play the game. That's this game that we play here every Tuesday. And I invite you, the public, to be entertained. Come and join us. Put in a few
Stay on
of your
topic,
public
Mr.
time.
Herman.
Yes, ma'am. Sorry, Mommy. Mommy. Well, here is an amount of, I don't have my glasses, but I believe it's $10 for the Los Angeles Police Foundation. Can you correct me there, Mr. City Attorney? Is that amount right?
This is your time. Do not ask questions of the commission or their members.
Well, ma'am, under the Brown Act, I'm asking the question to assist the public to understand that under the Brown Act, you may ask any individual on this commission a particular question. I'm just asking to engage in favor of your interests. That's all.
Robert's Rules of Order.
Sir, this is your time to speak.
Right, ma'am.
You can ask
and
questions. They will
I'm
not be
allowed
answered
under the
during
Brown Act 2 full minutes, and I will use those 2 minutes. Thank you. So, in the 10-year anniversary, hooty hoo, party time, celebration, get down on your knees and celebrate the so-called benefit of the Topanga area personnel, rank and file. Yeah, we should give them parties. We need officers to be recruited by having parties and know how the conditions of our process works. Practice and pattern and practice. But DOJ wants to know, Mr. Inspector General Mark P. Smith, for the record, is whether or not the Los Angeles Police Foundation should acquire the amount of $10,000 to celebrate an anniversary. Do your job, goddammit.
Mr. Paccetti?
I'll just save us a little more time while I make the comments so we put this all on the record, because that's what it's all about in the long run with the DOJ and the prosecution's coming down on you all real soon. Because you're going to have to be real busy in closed session here, and should have been already, if you're following the law, which none of you seem to be able to do.
This is item 1C,
Once again,
sir.
listen, lady, I've been teaching you fools the law, okay? Do you want me to pull out the law right now and show you how you just blew it with Mr. Herman and me? Huh? Maybe you better do some reading, lady. So here you got another bribe. You're so dumb. I'm videoing you just so I can give it and take you down when the prosecution starts. Do you understand?
Thank you, sir. Is there a motion to approve the report and accept the donation? Second? All in favor? The motion passes. Item D, Madam Secretary, is Mr. Herman and Mr. Paccetti the only cards?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, Mr. Herman. This is regarding item 1D, sir.
Yeah, Miss Washington, on my way. Coming down here, Miss Obama. Designee of the Obama branch. Thank you for having me here this morning, Ms. Decker. Yeah, here we go. Dated March 27, 2019. Relative monetary donation totaling $3,900. Bribery money of the Los Angeles Dodgers. You just got a person beat the hell out of at the Dodger game after one night of a hell of playing, and we're going to just assume that everything's A-okay at Dodger Stadium. No, the Dodgers should be giving this money to the plaintiff who's suffering in a bed because he doesn't have a monetary donation on his behalf and his 4 children and wife to be utilized, not for food, not for recreation, but for the activities of the assault that happened up at Dodger Stadium because we have more fucking police over there not securing the premises, and more individuals are being hurt, killed, and hospitalized. Ain't that a bitch?
I second Mr. Herman's statements. I'm horrified by what's happened with Nipsey Hussle. This man with a family being beaten and he's unconscious. The police are supposed to protect those people out there. Now, I don't know what happened, and you can't be everywhere, and every cop here knows that, okay? But this money shouldn't be used for food. These cops should shut this off of respect and go raise some money for that family, because it's about time you all start making all these murders, which is why these people aren't here right now, equally important, and you don't. This one since last night is only because of Jay-Z, and Sobroff's probably got some business going. Let's get it straight.
Thank you, sir. Is there a motion to approve the department's report and accept the donation? All in favor? Aye, the motion passes. On to item 1E, the department's report regarding the authority to destroy obsolete duplicate records. Madam Secretary, in terms of cards, is it Mr. Herman and Mr. Paccetti?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Mr. Herman, regarding item 1E, sir.
God bless America, Trump. So you hear that the request is to destroy records. And this is in the North Hollywood area. Now, why can't the public sign a petition to review the documents prior to your obsolete destruction of these files? What do you have to hide, Mr. T. Fank, in the Hollywood area? Is it a fact that Mr. Bonin, the TN from City Hall, abuses people in North Hollywood, subjecting them to physical and emotional distress and harm? Could it be a possibility that you're duplicating and hiding behind these records facts that you arrested Michael Hunt 83 times and you don't want to pay him? Isn't it a fact that these records may contain Wayne Spindler's incident where he was arrested 3 times by the LAPD? Fuck the police.
Mr. Paccetti?
And Madam Vice President, we did receive another card on this item.
What's the name of the individual?
Gina Viola.
Thank you.
First, what does the word obsolete mean? No police record is obsolete because as soon as you do that, it means you're trying to hide something, okay? Are you trying to hide Tamar Galatson's phone records that started the perjury on me 5 years ago? That led to me being repeatedly jailed, thrown into the state mental hospital, illegally given Abilify at 71 to kill me, okay? That's right, people, they tried to kill me. Only you didn't kill me. You gave me 3 serious diseases to this date. 24-hour pain, a skin disease over 25% of my body, and unbelievable amounts of garbage coming out of my lungs every morning. Thank you very much. At least you didn't kill me, okay? Now, what are you trying to hide? You never destroy second sets of records, and I'll tell you why. You fools have hacked several of my computers. You've hacked my websites, okay? Luckily, I have backup, massive backup, including my website that GoDaddy says might be the largest content of 34 million. So, I don't trust nobody for nothing, and especially you. So go ahead and vote to destroy these, because it's all coming down on you criminally and civilly for massive amounts of money, because you stupid fools also prevented me multiple times from making phone calls for up to 5 days when you illegally arrested me. Not 3 completed phone calls in 3 hours. And that's this stupid agency, okay? Now, why don't you get a grip on all your criminal stuff, like the 1.2 million illegal prosecutions and misdemeanors by the LAPD?
Ms. Viola?
Thank you. So I pretty much have a question. If you're destroying duplicate records, does that mean the original remains? Because I think with SB 1421, it's really important that we're clear about that.
That is correct, ma'am.
Okay. All right. That was my question. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes public comment. Is there a motion to approve the department's report and transmit to the city clerk, records management officer, this report? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? The motion passes. Moving on to item 1F. Madam Secretary, is it Mr. Herman and Mr. Paccetti?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Herman, item 1F, please.
Have a reasonable accommodations and provide a microphone to people that can barely walk like me.
Start the clock, please.
Start the clock, please. Yes, start the clock. Time of the essence. We heard the testimony, the woman before me, the gentleman before me, indicating that, one, yes, we will keep records. Two, gentleman gives his life experience of how his records and files were stolen. Matter of fact, Mr. Wayne Spindler indicated for the record that his computers were hacked and vandalized on his properties, something that Mr. T-Fank should question himself. Why the fuck are the police doing shit like that?
Mr. Paccetti?
You can see we're cooperating to move your meeting along today, but we're making sure we get our public comment, because if there's one thing for sure, these fine people are here today for real reasons. Many of them been coming back many times, okay? You should really listen to these people because they're dedicated, whether you like what they say or believe or not. And once again, you should not be destroying any records, because that's how things disappear, and then you get to say, oh no, gee, it's all gone. I don't quite remember that, you know. And you've been in court. Hey, Decker, do you know what it's like in a real courtroom, huh? How many homicide cases you've been involved in? What's the largest civil case you've been involved in, huh? Damn, I got a big, long record in legislation, too. Because guess what, fool? For 6 years, this damn state didn't pass a goddamn law on criminal justice without me and Celeste King IV. So have some respect.
That concludes public comment. Is there a motion to approve the department's report and transmit it to the city clerk? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. The next item on the agenda is item 2A, the department's report relative to Operations South Bureau Command Accountability Performance Audit. If we could have representatives of the department come up. Good morning, and if you wouldn't mind, please identify yourselves before we get started.
Yes, good morning. Jeffrey Phillips, Commanding Officer of Audit Division.
I'm Detective Dave Kennedy out of Audit Division.
Al Labrada, the Assistant Commanding Officer, Operations South Bureau.
And before questions from the commission, if you wouldn't mind just giving a brief overview of the report.
Certainly. Good morning, Commissioners, Chief, Mr. Smith. Before you is the Operations South Bureau Detective Command Accountability performance audit, which looked at various aspects of the detective protocols, such as the evaluation of arrests made by detectives, evaluation of case clearances, evaluation of felony warrant packages, and the evaluation of probationary detective performance. A total of 11 objectives and sub-objectives were assessed within this audit. Overall, 6 objectives that were assessed were above 90% compliance within the detective tables for South Bureau. With Objective 1A, this examined the approval and consistency of detective case packages. This audit objective met the standard at 74%, indicating there is room for improvement with supervisory approvals, ensuring the required documentation was in the case packages, and with various other information being consistent throughout the entire case package. Objective 2A assessed unfounded cases wherein specific criteria must be met before a case is classified as unfounded. The South Bureau detective tables met the standard with 87% of the sampled cases, and the other cases indicated circumstances for which the cases did not meet the criteria to be classified as unfounded. And as in the case of the unfounded cases, having specific criteria, objective number 2B assessed cases that were cleared other, which also have specific criteria that had to be met in order to be classified as such. Herein, 89% of the cases met the standard, whereby the other cases indicated circumstances showing they did not meet the criteria to be cleared other. With objective number 3, this assessed the felony warrant packages, and essentially there were 11 packages that were unable to be located at the time of the audit. Now, this may have been for various reasons, including the warrant package being in possession of the investigating officer, or the package being held or assigned to another investigating unit. Notwithstanding, there should be tracking of these packages nonetheless as to where the warrant package is physically. We did find and wanted to recognize Southeast area detectives, which resulted in 100% compliance. And we saw that, and we identified that at Southeast, they had a dedicated employee conducting due diligence on felony warrant packages. And we did make a recommendation for the other geographic areas to assign a dedicated employee to do the same. With Objective 4A, this looked at the probationary detective summary of performance. For the South Bureau Detective Command, they met the standard at 85% of documentation for probationary detectives that were assessed. And the remaining probationary detective performance that were assessed lacked some of the required information, and one probationary detective package was unable to be located at the time of the audit. We made 2 recommendations addressing the findings. That is my understanding that actions have been taken towards those efforts. I'll go ahead and hand it over to Commander Labrada to address those actions.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having us. I'd like to acknowledge the detective personnel from South Bureau, first of all, and more importantly, Southeast, in their due diligence in making this happen. Lessons learned from some of the things they implemented with tracking those. A couple of the objectives we identified as deficiencies for us are the approval consistency of arrest packages, unfounded cases inappropriately cleared other cases, evaluation of felony warrant packages, probationary detective summary of performances, and then also lack of systems to train new detectives. That's one of the deficiencies that I think that'll put this all in perspective to ensure effectiveness in the future with this. I am proud of the work they did of over 90% and above for the legality of arrest. Miranda rights, 7th and Southeast. He didn't document on some of those the documentation of the Miranda, which we'll address. The Marcy rights cards, medical treatment provided when required as needed. Arrests made by detectives correctly categorized, and probationary detective summary of performance, as well as probationary detective performance checklist. So we are taking a closer look at our management of new detectives as they arrive, as they're promoted into those positions, to ensure that we provide the appropriate training in addition to detective training or detective school. Moving forward, we did meet with the COs. Chief Cotto met with the detective COs to discuss findings, and currently each area has agreed to take a closer look at case packages to decrease the errors that the COs review all the packages after the detective 3s, and that's the detective COs, have reviewed those to ensure compliance with the deficiencies identified.
Go ahead. Questions?
Commander, the recommendation regarding following the lead set by Southeast Bureau, is that something you think you'll be able to implement throughout the, Southeast Division throughout the Bureau?
Yes, ma'am. We'll take a look at the availability of resources, but it's a proven effective way of managing. So yeah, it's something I'll discuss with Chief Cotto during the next CO's meeting, and then implement that as well.
Okay. Mr. Phillips, a broader question, because I might have misinterpreted some public comments from a few commission meetings ago, but I got the sense there was a misunderstanding by members of the public about what the audit division does and what it does not do. And I thought perhaps we'd all benefit from a brief description of that, if you don't mind, sir.
Certainly. Well, Audit Division was established in 2001. It was based on the consent decree. There was a mandate within the consent decree indicating that, one, there's very specific audits that had to be done by the department, and two, that the Los Angeles Police Department had to institute an internal audit unit. During those 9 years or so of the consent decree, there's those very specific audits that Audit Division conducted according to the consent decree. Post-consent decree, we obviously took a look at so many other areas within the department that were worthy to go ahead and assess and to inform the department and certainly the public as to areas where the department is doing well and areas where the department can go ahead and improve. And yes.
Oh, and on that point, it's about you're auditing whether the department is following its own internal policies and procedures.
Yes, it's a big, the crux of what we do is we are looking at compliance. We are looking at whether the department is following its own policies and procedures. When you look at consent decrees across the board within with other departments across the nation, that's what tends to get law enforcement agencies in trouble, and that is not following their own policy and procedures. Yes.
I don't have any other questions.
I want to write that one down. It's true. Good. Okay. Any other commissioner comments? Do we have any public comments? We're on 2A.
Please let the record reflect Commissioner Sobroff is present. We have two comment cards. We have Mr. Herman and Mr. Bazzetti.
Herman's not here.
Mr. Bazzetti.
Y'all originally got in trouble in Ramparts and you had to sign a 2001 agreement. Now, a few years ago, the judge let you off with that. Well, are any of you dummies that don't know jack about criminal justice aware that because none of you fools, including these dudes here that are up here making this presentation, making everything sound good, you didn't follow the internal affairs section of the 2001 DOJ agreement on Ramparts? Are you aware of the 2003 agreement, all of you intellectually, morally challenged people, huh? Are you aware that you've never been let off with that? Are you aware that there are 30,500 deaths by police in custody and unarmed on the street in those amount of years, according to the DOJ? Are you aware that 62% of deaths in custody are considered homicides by officers by the DOJ? Now, can you show us proof, and by the Brown Act, you can do it, dummies, including you dummy from the DOJ? Uh-huh. And you joker, I've been to you a bunch of times about the criminal activity over the last 5 years here. You don't give a shit. So that makes you all co-conspirators in criminal activity. So what the hell accountability is there here? Soboroff and all of you get all upset, and I read it in the Daily Mail. Because you're doing a deal with Jay-Z somehow, eh, Soboroff? Because your whole damn life is nothing about commissions and business. And you know damn good and well who I am, Soboroff.
And we have no other cards on this item.
Oh, we'll move to item number 3, report of the chief.
We
Oh,
approve the
I'm sorry.
department's report.
We have a recommendation to approve the department's report on 2A.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Let's go to item number 3, Report of the chief. Morning, Chief.
Good morning, President Soboroff, Commissioners, Mr. Chiefang, and Inspector General Smith, and to the public as well. The chief, as usual, found his way into many community engagement events throughout the city in this past week. I'll just highlight a few of them here for everyone. He met with Council Member Joe Buscaino to discuss the Bridge Home situation down in the harbor area. There was actually a Bridge Home information fair of which the chief of police was a part. Also, the chief found his way into 77th area, where many different aspects of community engagement have been taking place, including a meeting that he was part of there with the community relations section from his office. He also participated with Fire Chief Terrazas in the LAPD LAFD St. Baldrick's 2019 event there to support those families and children suffering from cancer. And that was an event that's very popular, gaining great traction, and providing huge dividends for especially the youngest afflicted with that horrible, horrible disease. Commissioners, you also joined us at the Cesar Chavez Appreciation Breakfast, and if Chief Arcos and Commander Labrada, I think they just left, they put on a beautiful affair where we also honored the son of Cesar Chavez. Paul Chavez was there. The keynote speaker was also Ana Guerrero, the chief of staff for Mayor Garcetti. There was a beautiful celebration of Mexican dance, heritage in Plaza de la Raza. And I was also there, and it was a beautiful affair that we spent time together to honor the legacy, the hard work, and the sacrifice of Cesar Chavez, and the wonderful work that continues in support of our farm workers. Also, the chief was in the Pacoima area at the New Christ Memorial Church, meeting with the pastor there, who is extremely active in combating some of the violence and the situations of challenge within the Valley communities. I'm going to switch gears now and highlight some of the crime information for the week ending March 30th. Homicides continue to be down year to date in the city of Los Angeles, 16.7%. So we're pleased about that, even though the chief did hold a press conference today with the mayor, council members, and President Soboroff regarding some of the concerns we have in South Los Angeles for gang violence that is increasing, including shooting victims of gang violence as well. Total Part 1 crime within the city is still down 7% year to date. When we do, again, refocus here on shots fired victims, we have seen an increase year to date over 2018 at 21.5%, with victims shot at 6.6%, and that's the increase we're looking at as we enter April. When we talk about gang-related crime, looking at the homicide picture, we are still down 36.6%, but in aggravated assaults in the gang-related crime area, we are up 20% year to date. Looking at our officer-involved shootings as of April the 1st, we are down 77.8% in totality, and in fatal officer-involved shootings, down 75%. Moving over to traffics, we are looking at a slight decrease in those traffic collisions where people have lost their lives or have suffered serious injury, down 5.3% citywide. We are seeing an increase in DUI-related traffic collisions, again, resulting in death or serious injury, up from 13 year-to-date in 2018 to 19 in 2019. We're watching that closely with funding from Vision Zero and a STEP grant that we have received from the mayor's office to increase our enforcement efforts in those high-injury networks as well. When we look at bicycle-involved traffic collisions, again, those involving in loss of life or serious injury, we are down 12.5% within the city. Turning our gears over to personnel, our sworn strength is at 10,037, our civilian strength at 2,981, We are still looking at unfunded civilian vacancies at 426, reserve officers at 393, and we should be having a class resuming in July. So we're trying to build up the strength of our reserve corps within the city of Los Angeles. Cadets are at 1,428, which are active, and we have a graduating class of cadets the second week of May, probably around the total of 393. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Chief. Do we have any commissioner questions to Chief Grimala? Do we have any public comments on the Chief's report?
Yes, sir. We have 6 comment cards. The first 3, George Bazzetti, Michael Williams, and Gina Viola.
You want to just start with the second one and then he's adjusting
Michael
his
Williams.
camera. Mr. Williams.
The chief, but because he's off doing duties that have nothing to do with being the chief of police, I guess he's not here. But I guess I'll change my direction. 2 weeks ago, this body did something that was incredibly out of character and found that two shootings that happened for Gresario Mac were out of policy. The only other time, or 2 other times that you've done this, and the 2 other times that you've done this, nothing has come about it. You guys have not held the police officers accountable. You have not fired the police officers. The police officers have not been removed from duty. None of these things have happened. And it's because the chief of police refused to do their job, and still what this police commissioner is supposed to do is be the voice of the community and instill their power and their enforcement onto the chief of police. One of your powers in the ways that you check back, just like, if you went to an intro poli-sci class, is one of the reasons why how you check and balance each other out is that you have the power to fire the chief of police if they don't respond to commands or things that you approved of. And so if Chief Moore does not fire these 2 officers who, under your, according to your decision, committed murder and killed someone unlawfully or out of LAPD policy and procedure, then you should fire the chief of police because he's not upholding the law. He's not upholding the rules or upholding the rulings that you have made. And then he continuously, just like Chief Beck did, made you guys look weak and inefficient because you were refusing to hold the chief of police accountable, just like the chief of police is refusing to hold the police officers accountable who are killing people unjustly that you have found. And so if the Chief Moore does not come back and say that these 2 officers should be fired, then you should fire the chief of police.
George Bazzetti, former Director of Policy at Congress of Racial Equality, California. That's only 117 years of civil rights, people. Then 54 of my own, that makes it 172. Wow, the former chief is back. The chief is back. Looks like your chief enforcer is a female just like Beck's was. See, Beck told his chief right here at this podium for his chief enforcer to take me and take my complaint, so she takes me in a room where you obviously beat people up to get confessions out of them trying to intimidate me, and then says we're too busy for that. OIG, do you know how many times I've been to you, fool, and you broken the law? I'm supposed to get a complaint number right away.
About the chief's report, stay on topic, please.
Hey, Soboroff, I am on topic. And a part of it is about you and your criminality, Dudio. Because none of you do your damn job here. And when I inform your agency that you've been a criminal in your agency before by erasing the audio to the 5/5/15 Police Commission meeting, dummy, that is your business. And it's your business by the law to immediately take it in for closed session. Any of you read the Bagley, Keene, and Green Act? You laugh like you want Mr. Telfank because it's all coming down. because this isn't a bunch of BS out of my rear like it is from you guys. We're going to hold you accountable to the law. And all you did with that last one is tell this dude to do his job. Now, is he going to do it? Are you going to follow the 2003 DOJ agreement, dummies? Are you going to do more killings where you're co-conspirator? That's the law.
Next speaker, please.
Gina Viola, followed by Audrey George and the Red Chief Hunt.
Morning.
I personally have been coming here for 2 years. And for 2 years, I've sat through chief's reports that have consistently said gang violence is down. Gang violence is down. A few weeks ago, it was down 46%. Today, it's down 36.6%. Shame on all of you for using Nipsey Hussle's death as a publicity stunt. Mr. Soboroff, you tweeted after he died that you were to meet with him yesterday. Why didn't you send that tweet out on Friday?
Because they didn't want me to. You don't know what you're talking about.
I don't know what I'm talking about?
No.
I know that you're using a man's death as a publicity stunt for your own advancement. Now that Nipsey Hussle is gone, you claim you were going to meet with him to give the community solutions. I don't know how long you've been on this board. I think it's 5+ years. You haven't offered the community any solutions. The community is not coming to you for solutions. Your behavior here has always been pro-police and anti-community. And now you are using his death as a means to make it look otherwise. It is appalling. I'm beyond myself. You are not who the community seeks for solutions. Organizations like the Youth Justice Coalition, that is the reason gang violence is down in this city. That is why these reports come in. Week after week, as I sit here and listen, gang violence is down. Now you're going to go out and do a press release today saying it's up, there's a sudden surge in it? So which is accurate? Is it accurate when you give that during the chief's report, or is it accurate when you're on the stage? That's what I want to know. And how dare you let CBS run with a story saying shots were fired, people were stabbed at a peaceful vigil. I myself went to a vigil of 1,000 people at a cemetery when a white musician died. You know what I didn't see there? Police. And I didn't see any riot police at all. Black people meet for a vigil, and you send...
Next speaker, please.
Audrey George, please.
I ask if the commission and the chief have read the $1 Million Hoods report that was just released, covering 2012 and 2017. This is a very thoroughly researched and accurately reported report on violence in the city. And you will see that one of the reasons for violence is racism. The total arrests in Los Angeles, 46% black people contribute to those statistics. 9% of our population is black people. There's another reason for this violence in our city is the fact that these incidents of arrests and stops are significant because they have results. They result from people in the community being separated from their families and from their communities. And then it's a cycle because that separation causes more crime. Look at the reasons for crime. I wanted to challenge also that the LAPD is going to use Nipsey's death as a reason to legitimize more cops in communities. It's insidious, it's evil, and it's not going to work, and the community will fight you on that. The things we don't need from you, as per a quote from Pete White, is we don't need LAPD in our neighborhoods trying to make us feel safe. The majority of us, meaning black community, have never felt safe during your incursion into our homes and our hoods. Just keep that in mind. Realize that falsifying statistics, criminalizing black people.
Next speaker, please.
The Red Chief Hunt, followed by Melina Abdullah and Kayla.
Morning, sir.
Morning, Red Chief Hunt. Last week I got mad because Soveroff broke the law. Mike, I owe you an apology. Soveroff, next time you break the law, I'm going to foul against you. It's criminal. When you interrupt this meeting, that's a criminal penalty by the federal courts. So I want you to know that. Mike, I truly, sincerely owe you an apology. My next thing is that you fired this commander woman, and you didn't fire the guy who was drunk on the freeway. Rehire that lady and get her back in 52 weeks of AAA. Hey, I'm an alcoholic too, so ain't nobody no better than nobody else. If you fire the guy, or if you just bump the guy back down to Captain 3, then she needs to be bumped down to Captain 3, 52 weeks of AAA. Get her back on the force. So a whole bunch of bullshit going on here, and it needs to stop. And I don't know what you're going to do or how you're going to do it. Soveroff, you've been here too long, man. Hey, we need a new president. Give it up, bruh, because you're an old tyrant to me. And I want to sit down and have breakfast with you and explain why that this is criminal, what you doing to these people by kicking them out the meeting. That's a federal crime, bruh, and it's very serious. Bob Arco's got my report that I did in federal court, and I assure you I'm going to win again. But it's not about that. It's about treating people fair, equally fair, and being constitutionally right and following the law. Please do that. Thank you, the Red Chief Hunt.
Thank you, sir.
Melina Abdullah, followed by Kayla and Eric White.
So I wanted to lift up something Michael said earlier. 2 weeks ago, this body ruled that on 2 counts, Ryan Lee and Martin Robles were out of policy. Before they issued that finding, and I know your name is not Beatrice Gramala, before they issued that finding, Chief Moore, you said that you stood on their side. I hope that that ruling convinces you to switch your position and fire Ryan Lee and Martin Robles. The community is demanding it. Grishario Mack's father and family are demanding it. And we don't want more murderous police in our neighborhoods. One of the things that I lifted up is it wasn't just about endangering and stealing the life of Grishario Mack. That mall that he was murdered in is the mall that I go to. It's the mall that my children go to. So they endangered an entire community. And if they don't deserve to be fired for that, then it's very clear what it is you stand for. The other thing that we want to lift up, and I know that conveniently the report cuts off at March 30th, but you all had a press conference that was closed to the public before this meeting, is that Nipsey Hussle's murder is being used at this moment to pour police into the neighborhood that I live in. And we're not even able to make our way home anymore without being pulled over. We need to understand that safety for our community, and what Nip believed in is safety from our community, for our community, comes from our community. We don't need you there over policing us. We don't need you there questioning me in gas station parking lots. We don't need you there to intimidate, harass, and brutalize our community. What we need is community solutions. So give up some of your budget.
Next speaker, please. Who's next?
Kayla.
Okay, you can come back during public comment. Thank you. You come back during public comment. Thank you. Keep. Thanks. Please stop disrupting the meeting. You're baloney. Go ahead.
I only have a few things to say. I would like to uplift what everyone has said in terms of the outrageous amount of police in our neighborhood now after Nipsey Hussle's passing on Sunday. It has been grossly it has been gross. I'll leave it at that. I wanted to say that I do not believe that our Black Messiah was planning on sitting down with you to talk about ways that you can better help gang violence in our neighborhoods. But if you continue to push that, I would like to say, Steve, if you feel the way that you tweeted that you would act differently in these meetings when people are grieving. Because these meetings aren't about potholes or dumbass. You have people in here that are worried about their lives and the lives of their loved ones that were taken, and it's utterly disrespectful how you treat people in this meeting, and it's probably the most immature thing I've seen out of a grown man in a really long time. I don't understand it. I don't understand how you can just shut things down, shut people up when people are trying to express the things that are weighing on their hearts. And you're not from our community, so you wouldn't know anything about our hero or what he meant to us or how people are grieving or how peaceful that vigil has been for the past 2 days. It has been a community of love and a community of supporting each other and understanding and public grieving, community grieving. And you have no place there. And I don't believe that he was going to come here. And through conversations that I had with his family, most recently about the meeting with Rosario Mack's family, I know that he knew, and nobody over there is confused about who you are and who he was and what his mission was. And it definitely didn't involve you. Thank you.
Eric White.
Hello. All right. So
I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So I just wanted to say that, I would say according to past practice, how the police have conducted themselves, in that neighborhood, to invite more of them actually increases the chance of more shootings to happen. And I would say that also when you go there as a resident of the community, it kind of gives you similar experience like you in a military campground or something, or like some type of war zone. You just see all these guns and people just standing all brute. You know what I mean? It kind of gives you like a certain impression, and you feel like you have to protect yourself, or you feel the need to, I don't know. You almost don't feel welcomed. And, I just want to lift that up in this meeting, in this space, because I just want to make sure that officers really own the power that they possess and the presence that they bring when they come places, and it can be intimidating, and it can bring flight or flight type of reactions at times, and, I personally experienced, police brutality myself multiple times, and I just want to say that, I have a wife and a son to come home to, and I want to make sure I make it home to them every night, and when you in that type of predicament, it's hard to say what you would do. A lot of people say what they would do, but until you're actually in the shoes in that situation, as a black person, with the percentage of, the likeliness of it, how many times that's happened, you can't ignore those facts. Those are statistics that just point and prove and show that we are more likely at risk. And I just wanted to just ask that we just take that in mind when we come up with community solutions for these type of situations.
Thank you, sir.
And we have no other comment cards on that item. We're now on item number 4, public comment. And we have 9 comment cards. The first 3, Jim Olson, Audrey George, and Jeffrey Delshea.
Hello, gentlemen and ladies. I was here on February 19th, and I gave a 16-page document to Chief Moore and to President Steve Soboroff, and I have not gotten any letters or anything back from there. That complaint has made some new developments, and I want to provide that with you in writing today. I want to ask Chief Moore, did you ask anyone in your office to write back to me?
Yes, sir. I've I read that matter, and I also provided it to my chief of staff in my office. They're available in the back of the room. Whether or not we have a letter actually inbound to you or not, we can answer that today. And also, if you have additional information, we'll be happy to take it from you.
Thank you. I just want to ask one more thing. On March 26th, I was with my Section 8 caseworker. Her name is Ronnie Jones. And when I was here on the 19th February, I asked the officers at the office desk out there if there was a phone number to you, directly to you, where I could talk to you. And he gave me the number of, I believe it's, no, I have the fax number. I have it, it's 213-486-0166 as a fax number. And Ronnie
Sir,
Jones.
we'll get you, we don't need to do that publicly. We'll get you that information.
Okay.
Can someone help him give him the correct
All
phone
right.
number? Thank you very much, sir.
All right. One is for the for the president, and one is for the chief.
Thank you, sir.
The next speaker, Audrey George, please.
Thank you.
I once again encourage everyone to read the report, The $1 Million Hoods, which proves the blatant racism, the pervasive racism in the LAPD. 46% of arrests are black people, who comprise only 9% of our population. Among the top reasons why people are arrested are failures to appear, which we know is tied integrally to homelessness. Substance abuse, which we know that white people use drugs at least as much or more than people of color. Substance abuse, parole violations, which we know is just a direct result of the other kinds of arrests. Steve Soberoff, you have in media and in statements made always aligned yourself with LAPD. It's like a love fest. There's no way, I personally believe, that Nipsey had any plans to meet with you to fix problems in the community that he believed. He clearly believed.
Today I released the email that they sent me. So
we're clearly
you can have more time.
But
today I released the email that they sent to me requesting the meeting. You can have quiet. You can have 2 more minutes. But go ahead. But today the email was released. They're requesting meeting with me and with the chief. Whatever you believe, take 2 minutes and start over.
We know that Nipsey believed through his spoken word and the work he did in the community that the LAPD is responsible for the violence in his community, for the poverty in his community, and the other problems in his community. Unless he was going to just communicate that to you and Chief Moore, that would be a reason he might be asking for a meeting. Because if he asked for a meeting, it would maybe be because you might hear him in a way that you don't hear us. Steve Soberoff also, what the hell was that last week? Is there any rule that when I come up here and speak, I have to be facing this way? That I can't address the people in the community that come here, as well that I even have to address a commission that I truly believe doesn't usually hear anything I say anyway? You know, you challenged Hamid Khan on why he wasn't facing you. I don't know what the hell that was about, or if there's anything you can say to defend that statement.
I was a big nerd in high school. Gene Roddenberry. We can lift up many names here. I believe he was a sergeant in the LAPD before he burned out or whatever. So I believe there is room for improvement. I think the people have spoken on that regard. But I think with regards to Star Trek and that whole thing, I think you would be wise to consider that there have been idealistic people who have nice visions of the future that were produced within this institution in part, and that's maybe you could like put that into your system and see that there is various futures present in front of you at all times, and you have lots of options. I think this Star Trek future that I like to watch has a certain evolution has occurred in certain areas of the way people relate to each other and things of that nature. Let me just lift up a few other names while I have 40 seconds left. On YouTube, if you're interested, there's these people doing these audits where they film police, just like continuous filming. It's rather interesting, and the law is sometimes hard to find when you're watching that. It's not really funny. I'm sorry to laugh. So there, I watched this guy named Nasty Nathaniel, and also there's a guy named High Desert Community Watch, and you guys usually give them a pretty hard time, but I think they're somewhat fair critics at times, and you could listen to them. Thanks.
The next three speakers, George Bazzetti, Gina Viola, and Zach Sherwin.
Now, do you know what the Bagley-Keene Open Meeting Act is, Mr. Stevie Soberafa, and any of you fools up there? Do you have any concept of, or ever read, or capable of comprehending with your limited capabilities? And Steve, I think you're either the biggest liar in the world, you've got some serious dementia, because I've been up your rear for years, blowing away billions at LA Unified. See, I prepared here for you because you're also ignorant, and I'll be loading to my website, fraudbuster.org, where you can watch him committing felonies by erasing the audio to the meeting on 5/5/15, right, Dudio? Because you had to go into closed session with your boys and tell your people to erase it, because you had to produce it in 2.5 hours. And we check with people that do that for a living. It takes 2 hours to do it. So damn, you are really moving fast. Now, Nipsey Hussle, well, I go search this out and I find the best information not in the U.S. people. It's in the Daily Mail from London. With all the quotes by you. You see, you didn't care about this family that we were here before, that Melina was talking about, and all the hundreds of other families that died. If this wasn't with Jay-Z, you wouldn't have cared about Nipsey Hussle. Why don't you read about all the people backing him? Steve, I watch your gears turn in your head, just like Roy Romer, when he's the first person to introduce himself to me, right? Business. There you go. Show it to the ignorant people.
Gina Viola.
You're on the record.
Historically and in the present, instead of investing in communities' health and well-being, policing has always been used as a solution which further exacerbates the problems and keeps things in a continuing downward spiral of poverty, violence, racism, and all-around structural harm. The conditions on the ground, which are by design, would create an environment that triggers tragic events like we had this weekend. The insidious and deeply racist part of it is that within white supremacist narratives, of which policing, such as the LAPD, is the deployment and enforcement arm of white supremacy, the communities themselves would be blamed for their trauma, and the immediate response we hear is black-on-black violence. This further creates opportunities for the system to justify and further expand the scope of policing, targeting all neighborhoods and individuals with programs like SAR, activity reporting, PredPol, and LASER. You're hearing from community members that they don't want you there. They haven't felt safe with you there all weekend. I don't live there, but I'm not far away. But I'm a white soccer mom, and guess what? It's on my radar. It's on our radar. The whole community is waking up to what has been happening here. We are all going to start coming to these meetings. We are all going to be here to speak truth to you. When I look at you today, do you know what I see? I see executioners. That's all I can see as I look at you today. You need to know that.
Zach Sherwin, followed by Mateo Nagasi.
Commissioner Soboroff, I want to talk about you and Nipsey Hussle as well, and I will be curious to see if you interrupt me or make faces, as you did to the 4 women who brought this up before me, 2 of whom were women of color. Your tweet yesterday about Nipsey ended, quote, "I'm so very sad," and it is sad. It's a tragedy when people get shot to death. Nobody deserves it. But what makes you so very sad about this killing? I have never heard you say or tweet that you're, quote, "so very sad" about people who have been shot by LAPD officers. I've heard you utter the formula, "I'm sorry for your loss." I've been in the room when you've looked at your phone while family members were speaking at this podium, but I've never heard you say or tweet that the death of Eric Rivera was so very sad. I've never heard you say or tweet that the death of Grishario Mack was so very sad. I've never heard you say or tweet that the death of Waukesha Wilson was, quote, "so very sad." I understand why you tweeted that. It's popular and safe to performatively mourn Nipsey Hussle right now, and it also must be infinitely easier to get on board and oppose a murder that wasn't committed by a police officer you're responsible for overseeing. But why didn't you tweet about your so-called solutions to gang violence earlier instead of on the day of Nipsey's death? It's difficult not to conclude that the explanation is self-promotion and starfuckery. What we have seen from you is full support of LAPD, their policies, and their killings. You're so very sad smacks of hypocrisy and lip service. To say you don't know what you're talking about to people who are speaking at this podium is a bad look for a bad leader of a bad institution in a bad system. To the other commissioners, I have friends who have come to this meeting for the first time and cannot believe your president's conduct in this room. I can't believe you are all comfortable with the way he runs these meetings and that you consent to it week after week, that this is your figurehead. I can't believe there's nothing you can do about it. I know you were all in the room with me and you've seen the behavior that I've seen today. This guy has got to go. Also, this microphone is at an awkward height for tall people, and I urge you to do something about it.
Okay, I just wanted to go back to Grishario Mack when I read that Chief Moore said that all of the actions by the officers were in policy. Yeah, I read that you said that, and I just think that's really disgusting. You couldn't even admit walking back and shooting him, the fatal shot, was out of policy. I mean, you do this all the time, so no wonder it keeps happening, because you stand up for everybody by saying it's in policy. I was going to go into it about an article I read about a Virginia police chief who had to resign over duress a couple of weeks ago because after an officer was convicted of killing an unarmed black man, she was getting harassment inside her own office that she had to resign under duress because she had not seen such racism and abuse authority since that actual conviction happened, and she had to actually resign her position. So I gave it to, at least she admitted what she was up against. I've never even heard that from you. I've never heard it from anybody. So, maybe there's hope. But if we can jump like back to the Nipsey Hussle thing. I don't see anywhere on Rock Nation's page that it said it had a meeting with the police commission. So I don't know. I don't believe you. Why would he want to meet with you anyway? I mean, you guys rubber stamp, and that includes the mayor. When I see you guys standing up there, it's not laughable. It's just disgusting, because you sign off on all of these police murders, and I don't know if the police didn't.
Jacqueline Richardson and Audrey George. She had 2 cards. Okay. No. You had 2 cards on 4, and you have a card on 5A1. Mm-hmm.
It's a tirade against the Russians. I'm real angry with them. Why? Because they have real sharp leaders, and they're here in the United States, and nobody knows who they are. Who are the Russians? Are they the white people? Are they the black people? Are they the Chinese? Are they the Mexicans? They're all of them. White, black, Mexican, Chinese. I believe if you ID the Russians and everybody else, not just the Russians, everybody else, that would keep your crime rate down considerably, because everyone wants to be able to come here, come and go as they please, and have the citizenship paperwork. I believe if you had that, it would force them to be nicer to everyone and cut off these crime problems. Everyone wants to come here. Green cards, in progress getting citizenship paperwork. I don't believe most of the Russians have citizenship paperwork. That's probably the biggest problem. I'm against the Russians. They have sharp leaders. I don't know how sharp all of them are, but they have some real sharp leaders, some real nice ones behind them. They're not so nice. I believe their problems are in the job, housing, and the most important thing is, maybe they're not hiding themselves, but you don't know who they are, so they are hiding themselves out in public. They're hiding themselves. And they take advantage of jobs and housing and taxes and voting and other areas. Again, who are the Russians? White, black, Mexican, Chinese, all of them. They're all of those things. And also accuse the homeless of being Russians, the majority of them. And if you ask them, are you Russian? They take the fifth. They won't tell you if they're Russian or not. I accuse most of them, or many of them, of being Russian people too. Whether they are or not, I could be wrong, but I accuse them anyway of being Russian. Like I said, they have some sharp leaders, and they take advantage of the jobs. They take advantage of voting. They take advantage of not.
And the final speaker is Yvonne Michelle Autry. This is public comment.
This is why I got here late today. But yeah, this is actually directly to you, Chief of Police. Yeah, I'm standing and I'm requesting your resignation. I think that you set a very poor example. I think that your example is of non-leadership. I think you're a disgrace, not only to the peace officers that really serve and protect, or they try to serve and protect without bias due to gender, due to size, due to race, ethnicity, or socioeconomic background. I think you're a disgrace to the human race. I can speak on the basis of 52 years of living in the Los Angeles community. I think you are even worse than a Daryl Gates, much worse than a Chief Braden and former Chief of Police Charlie Beck, because you posture as a false leader that postures for change, positive change in the community in favor of the community consensus, which is a lie. So you are worse. I think you're a closet Klansman as well. So I'm standing for your resignation, and I'm asking for it. Your disgrace. And your officers are following. It's not even a leadership, okay? Last week you heckled me. I have every right to address my elected and my appointed officials. Okay, so not only do I hold you responsible, but I hold Eric Garcetti responsible because he appointed you. We do not want you. I don't want you. And I don't appreciate your disrespect.
I could piss on this podium, and you better listen to me. But when we bring to you issues of the community because of the homicides in our community, and you continually write off our complaints as being within policy and procedure, and you heckle me, it shows you have no character, especially not to the call of duty that you're required. That's why
Next speaker.
We have no other speakers in
Okay,
public comments.
Let's go to 5A. Thank you. Next speaker.
For closed session 5A1, we have Mr. Bazzetti and Audrey George.
And how about 5A2?
And 5A2, we have Mr. Bazzetti.
Okay. So let's go with Ms. George, please. This is on 5A1.
Regarding that issue for Mr. Chavez. It looks like it took 10 officers to bring this person down. They tased him. They used bean bags. They brought him down. It must have been extremely brutal. And then, suspiciously, he died in detention of supposedly natural causes. I hope you look very carefully at that. A man that brutalized by 10 officers and by the equipment they used against him, dying of natural causes is very suspicious. And if it wasn't the physical brutality, imagine the mental anguish and torment, the fear, the terror that he went through, and how that would contribute to a death in custody. That was not a natural death. He wouldn't, if you hadn't brought him down with brutality, he would still be alive and maybe not even charged with whatever crime you had suspected him of.
Okay, this is on 5A1, and then you also have a card on 5A2.
Okay, well, I'm just going to do it all at one time. Is that okay?
Sure.
I'm here because I spent 54 years in civil rights, 8 years with Celeste King IV, as the only white person to ever allowed into 117 years of the real civil rights in the United States. That's the King family, okay? I consider homicides of any kind the worst. I'm a witness to 2 in the Twin Towers, and the grand jury told me they didn't care.
You got to stay on topic, otherwise I can't let
Be
you.
quiet, Mr. Soboroff. I'm talking about this kind of thing. According to the DOJ dummies, 62% of all deaths and homicides are considered homicides by officers. That's DOJ. When are we going to see homicides, 187s, treated equally? Are we a nation of all equal before the law, or special people? Now, if these cops beat this guy up, take him down. That's your job. Do you have any idea how much time I've spent researching this over 6 years for the legislature for every goddamn law on AB 109? And what do you think is driving this? The 150,000 students that don't go to LA Unified every day. They're not out helping grandma across the street. And you don't care. So you throw me in jail because I bring it to you. Well, I'm coming back until you're all
Okay, thank you.
And we have no other comment cards, sir.
Okay.
The Board of Police Commissioners will now recess into closed session to discuss items number 5A1 and 2 in accordance with Government Code 54957. work in closed session. We are back in open session. In closed session, item number 5A1 was discussed and the chief's recommendations were unanimously adopted. In closed session, item number 5A2 was discussed and the chief's recommendations were unanimously adopted. Mr. President, is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll move it. Do we have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
No one's opposed?
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
Hi, I'm Chris. I'm an Iyengar yoga teacher here in Los Angeles, and you're watching LA City View, Channel 35, Our City, Our Channel. Namaste.